In a lot of disaster movies and post-SHTF novels, FEMA camps play a central role. Survivors get rounded up, transported to massive camps, and placed under tight control. Sometimes those camps offer safety and food. Other times they feel more like prisons, and the main characters do everything they can to avoid them. Because of that, many preppers assume FEMA camps are not only real, but inevitable after a large-scale collapse. Some people even build their entire preparedness strategy around staying far away from any form of government aid. So the question is this: after a truly widespread SHTF event, do FEMA camps really exist in the way movies and books portray them? And if not, what should we realistically expect instead? Welcome to Prepper's Paradigm, your channel dedicated to practical prepping and disaster preparedness. I use a computer-generated voice because my own voice is difficult to understand due to an injury. In this video, we are taking a grounded look at FEMA camps and government aid after SHTF, not from a conspiracy angle, and not from a disaster movie script, but from a logistics and reality standpoint. We are going to look at how FEMA camps are commonly portrayed in disaster movies and books, what the Federal Emergency Management Agency actually does during real disasters, and how things would likely change after a very large, long-lasting event that affects wide areas of the country. In disaster movies and post-SHTF novels, FEMA camps often appear as an unavoidable stage of collapse. Survivors get funneled into large centralized camps run by government or military forces. Entry usually comes with strict rules, loss of personal freedom, and limited ability to leave. These camps serve a clear purpose in storytelling. They create tension by forcing characters to choose between dependence and independence. A camp offers food and protection, but at the cost of control. That trade-off pushes protagonists to reject aid and rely on themselves instead. Fiction also simplifies how fast and how well these camps form. Aid appears quickly. Authority feels organized. Supplies seem available even as the wider world falls apart. That compression of time and logistics makes for good drama, but it does not reflect how real disaster response works. Because these portrayals show up repeatedly across movies and novels, many people start to treat them as a likely outcome rather than a narrative device. That assumption carries over into preparedness planning, even though the reality after SHTF would look far more chaotic and far less controlled. In the real world, FEMA does not build or operate large permanent camps designed to house people long-term. FEMA's role centers on coordination. The agency works with state and local authorities to move resources, support emergency shelters, and help restore basic services after disasters. Most shelters used during hurricanes, wildfires, and floods are not FEMA facilities in the way movies portray them. Local governments usually open schools, community centers, convention halls, or stadiums. In some cases, hotels serve as temporary housing when buildings remain available. These locations operate as short-term solutions, not long-term living spaces. FEMA steps in to help fund and organize these efforts. The agency assists with logistics, reimbursement, and distribution of aid. Food, water, medical supplies, and temporary shelter come from a patchwork of federal, state, and private resources. Even under normal conditions, these systems struggle to keep up when disasters affect large populations. Conditions inside real shelters often reflect those limits. Crowding becomes common. Privacy disappears. Medical care stays basic. Supplies run thin as days turn into weeks. These shelters aim to stabilize people, not provide comfort or long-term security. FEMA also depends heavily on functioning infrastructure. Roads, fuel, communications, and supply chains all matter. When those systems work, aid moves faster. When they fail, response slows or stops altogether. That dependence becomes critical when thinking about a nationwide or long-duration SHTF event. This reality looks very different from the controlled, well-supplied camps seen in disaster movies and books. Instead of order and permanence, real disaster response revolves around improvisation, shortages, and time pressure. Small disasters and large-scale SHTF events operate under completely different rules. A hurricane hitting one region or a wildfire affecting one state still leaves the rest of the country intact. Resources can move in from the outside. Personnel can rotate. Supply chains, even if strained, continue to function. A widespread SHTF event removes that safety net. When multiple regions face the same crisis at the same time, there is no unaffected area to draw from. Trucks, fuel, food, medical supplies, and personnel all come from the same stress system. Food becomes one of the first pressure points. Modern food distribution relies on constant movement. Shelters need regular resupply to feed large numbers of people. If production slows or transportation breaks down, even well-organized aid efforts fall short quickly. Medical care faces similar limits. Hospitals already operate near capacity during normal times. After SHTF, injuries increase while staffing and supplies decrease. Shelters cannot replace hospitals, and field medical support only covers the most basic needs. Security and staffing also present challenges. Large shelters require people to manage intake, distribute supplies, maintain order, and handle medical issues. The workforce has to come from somewhere. After a major collapse, many of those people face the same personal emergencies as everyone else. Transportation and fuel tie all of this together. Without fuel, aid does not move. Without roads, it does not arrive. Without communications, coordination breaks down. These limits explain why large, centralized camps struggle to function even in well-planned responses. Scale turns disaster response from a logistics challenge into a triage problem. Decisions focus on what can be done quickly rather than what would work well long-term. That reality matters when thinking about FEMA camps after SHTF and whether they could exist in the way stories often describe. For many preppers, avoiding government aid after SHTF is a practical decision rather than a political one. It comes down to health, control, and long-term sustainability. Crowded shelters increase the risk of illness. Shared sleeping areas, limited sanitation, and stretched medical resources create conditions where disease spreads quickly. When treatment options remain limited, even minor health issues can become serious. Resource limits also shape daily life inside shelters. Food, water, and medical care get rationed. Personal gear and stored supplies often cannot come along. People lose control over basic routines like eating, resting, and movement. Rules exist to manage scarcity, not to punish, but they still reduce flexibility. Curfews, restricted movement, and controlled schedules affect daily life. For people used to self-reliance, those limits can feel more risky than helpful. Security concerns factor in as well. Large groups under stress increase conflict and theft. Limited staffing makes consistent enforcement difficult. Some preppers view shelters as unpredictable environments rather than safe havens. For most, avoiding aid does not mean refusing it forever. Government assistance becomes a last resort option rather than a first move. Preparedness provides the freedom to make that choice instead of being forced into it. After a large, widespread SHTF event, government aid would likely appear in fragments rather than as a unified system. Some areas would see temporary shelters and distribution points. Other areas might see little or nothing at all. Access would depend on geography, timing, infrastructure, and population density. FEMA camps, as portrayed in disaster movies and novels, are unlikely to exist in a consistent or long-term form. What people encounter instead would be improvised shelters, limited aid, and systems under constant strain. Order would be uneven. Support would change from day to day. Prepared individuals would have more choices. Self-reliance allows people to delay seeking aid, avoid overcrowded shelters, or use government assistance selectively rather than out of necessity. That flexibility becomes one of the most valuable outcomes of preparedness. Understanding this reality helps reset expectations. Planning based on fictional camps leads to different decisions than planning around logistical limits and human behavior. When systems struggle, the goal shifts from comfort and control to basic survival. The takeaway is simple. Government aid may help in the short term, but it cannot replace personal preparedness. The more capable you are on your own, the fewer bad options you are forced to accept when everything else starts to fail. If you found this video useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. For more prepping guides and information, visit preppersparadigm.com. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay prepared.